I was sitting in my apartment in Seattle, scrolling through my phone on a quiet Tuesday evening, when a message popped up that made my stomach drop. It was from Sarah, my ex-wife, the woman I had not spoken to in 3 years. 3 years of silence, 3 years of building a new life, 3 years of peace. And now here she was again asking if we could talk, saying she had changed, claiming she still thought about us. I stared at the screen, feeling that old familiar tightness in my chest, and one question burned in my mind. Why would not she let go? Before I tell you how I completely vanished from her life, and why she is still trying to track me down, after all this time, I want to know where you are watching from. Drop your location in the comments below. And if you have ever had to walk away from someone who betrayed you, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story is about choosing yourself when someone else chose to throw you away. Now let me take you back to where it all started. Sarah and I met at a barbecue in Austin, Texas about 7 years ago. A mutual friend was celebrating his birthday, and I remember seeing her across the yard laughing at something. Someone said her hair catching the late afternoon Sunday. She worked in marketing for a tech startup, and I was doing software development for a mid-sized company. We got to talking about terrible office coffee and the best breakfast tacos in the city, and before I knew it, we had exchanged numbers. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. It was not anything fancy, just the two of us on a hiking trail in Colorado, overlooking a valley that seemed to stretch on forever. She cried when I asked her, and I felt like the luckiest man alive. Our wedding was small and intimate, held at a vineyard in Napa Valley, with maybe 40 people. Her parents, my parents' close friends. We danced under string lights, ate too much cake, and drove off in my old truck with tin cans rattling behind us. We settled into married life in Denver. We rented a 2-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where people walked their dogs in the morning and said hello when you passed them. Saturdays, we would hit the farmer's market, load up on fresh vegetables and homemade bread, then spend the afternoon cooking together. Sundays were for hiking. We would pack sandwiches, drive out to the mountains, and lose ourselves on trails that wound through pine forests and alpine meadows. We talked about buying a house someday, maybe starting a family in a few years, when we both felt more settled in our careers. I felt secure, content, like I was building toward something real and lasting. Sarah had this way of making me feel seen, you know. She would leave little notes in my lunch bag, surprise me with my favorite beer. After a long week, curl up next to me on the couch and fall asleep during movies. It was ordinary life, but it was ours, and I loved it. About 3 years into our marriage, things started to shift. At first, it was so subtle I barely noticed. Sarah became more protective of her phone. She started placing it face down on the table during dinner, taking it with her even when she went to the bathroom. I remember thinking it was odd, but dismissing it. Everyone is glued to their phones these days, right? Then she joined a new gym, a really expensive one across town, the kind with personal trainers and juice bars. She started buying new workout clothes, spending more time on her appearance. Again, I told myself it was healthy. She wanted to feel good about herself. Nothing wrong with that. But the late nights at work started piling up, Thursdays and Fridays especially. She would text me around 6, saying she had to finish a project, that she would grab something to eat on the way home. She would walk in around 10 or 11 looking tired, smelling faintly of wine. Our usual routine started falling apart. She stopped wanting to go to the farmer's market. She was always too tired for hikes. When I suggested we plan a weekend trip somewhere, she would say work was too busy, maybe next month, and the fights started. Small ones at first over stupid things. I left a dish in the sink. I forgot to pick up milk. She would snap at me, then apologize, saying she was just stressed. One Tuesday I came home early from work. A client meeting got canceled, and I figured I would surprise Sarah, maybe order takeout and have a quiet evening together. But she was not home. I texted her asking where she was. She said she was at her yoga class. I thought nothing of it until later that evening, when I remembered her mentioning the studio was doing some renovations. I looked it up online. The studio had been closed that entire week for construction. When I asked her about it the next day, trying to keep my tone casual, she got defensive. She accused me of tracking her, of not trusting her. She said maybe she got the day wrong, maybe she went to a different location. It spiraled into an argument that ended with her storming out of the apartment, and me sitting on the couch feeling like the ground beneath me was shifting. I confided in Marcus, a guy I worked with who had become a good friend. We grabbed beers after work one day and I laid it all out. The phone thing, the late nights, the yoga class that did not happen. Marcus listened, sipped his drink, and finally said, "Man, I do not want to plant seeds, but you should trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is." So I started paying more attention, and the more I looked, the more I saw. Credit card statements showed charges at restaurants I had never been to, expensive places downtown. When I asked Sarah about them, she said they were work lunches, team dinners. But the charges were on weekends. She bought gifts I never received. Perfume, a watch, a leather wallet. She said they were for her dad's birthday, her brother's promotion. But I never saw her give anyone those things. She became distant in other ways, too. Intimacy between us, which had always been easy and natural, felt forced. She seemed distracted, like her mind was somewhere else. She stopped talking about the future. When I brought up looking at houses, she changed the subject. When I mentioned maybe trying for a kid soon, she said she was not ready, that we should wait. The breaking point came on a random Wednesday night. My laptop decided to die right in the middle of responding to an urgent work email. I asked Sarah if I could borrow hers real quick, just to send a message to my boss. She hesitated, then said, "Sure," but she seemed nervous. I opened the browser to check my email, and that is when I saw it. Her browser history was not cleared. There were tabs still open. Messages to someone saved under the name J. I should have closed it. I should have respected her privacy. But something in me knew. I clicked on one of the tabs. Explicit messages. Plans to meet at hotels. Conversations about how exciting it was. How they had to be careful. And then the one that broke me. A message where she wrote, "He does not suspect anything. I will tell him eventually, but the timing is not right yet." I sat there staring at the screen, my hands shaking. I scrolled through weeks of messages. The affair had been going on for at least 6 months, maybe longer. There were details about their meetings, about how she felt alive again, about how she was not sure what she wanted, but she was not ready to give this up. When Sarah came home that night, I was sitting on the couch, her laptop closed on the coffee table. She asked if I had finished my email. I said yes. She kissed me on the forehead and went to take a shower. I listened to the water running and felt my entire world crumbling around me. But I did not say anything, not that night. I needed time to think. Over the next 3 days, I went through every emotion you can imagine. Rage, heartbreak, disbelief. I would look at Sarah across the dinner table, watch her laugh at something on her phone, and think about how she had no idea that I knew. Part of me wanted to confront her right then and there, to scream, to demand answers, to see her face when she realized she had been caught. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I did not want that. I did not want her tears or her excuses. I did not want to hear about how it meant nothing, how she still loved me, how she made a mistake. Because it was not a mistake. It was a choice. 6 months of choices. I started thinking about what I actually wanted, and what I wanted was to be free, completely free. No drama, no back and forth, no begging or bargaining. I wanted to walk away and never look back. And then an idea started forming. What if I just disappeared? I called a divorce attorney the next day. I took a long lunch, drove to an office across town where no one would recognize me, and sat down with a lawyer named Patricia. She was in her 50s, no nonsense, and she laid out my options. Colorado is a no-fault divorce state. We did not have kids. Our finances were mostly separate because we had kept our own accounts and just split bills. The apartment lease was in Sarah's name because she had moved in first and I joined later. This could be clean. I asked Patricia about serving papers. She said I could have them delivered, or I could leave them somewhere Sarah would find them. I told her I wanted to leave them. She raised an eyebrow but did not argue. I paid her retainer in cash, shook her hand, and walked out feeling something I had not felt in weeks: control. Marcus was the only person I told about my plan. We met at a bar near his place, and I laid it out. I was going to leave, not just the apartment, the city, maybe the state. I was going to pack my things, file for divorce, and disappear from Sarah's life entirely. Marcus stared at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. You deserve better than this, Karl. If ghosting her is what you need to do to protect yourself, then do it. I had been applying to jobs in other cities for a couple of weeks, just testing the waters. I got an offer from a tech company in Seattle. The pay was better, the role was a step up, and it was 1,200 miles away from Denver. I accepted it. For the next 2 weeks, I moved through life like I was in a movie. I gave notice to the storage unit I rented and started moving things there bit by bit. Old photo albums, my grandfather's watch that he left me when he passed, boxes of books, my camping gear, anything that mattered. I left behind everything that was tied to our marriage. The wedding photos in frames, gifts from her family, kitchen stuff we had bought together. I did not want any of it. I opened a new bank account at a different bank and transferred all my money over. I canceled the one joint credit card we had, though I barely used it. I made a list of what I was entitled to in the divorce and what I was willing to walk away from. Honestly, I did not care about the furniture or the dishes. I wanted nothing that would remind me of this chapter of my life. I changed all my passwords, backed up my files, created a new email address that Sarah did not know about. I planned to change my phone number as soon as I got to Seattle. That last week was surreal. Sarah was still working late most nights. I cooked dinner for myself, watched shows I liked, and went to bed alone. On Thursday night, she mentioned she had a big team event on Friday and would be out late. I just nodded. Perfect timing. Friday morning, Sarah left for work at 8:30, same as always. She kissed me goodbye, told me to have a good day. I watched her walk out the door, and I knew it was the last time I would see her. I called in sick to my job. I only had 2 weeks left there anyway, and I had enough saved time. At 9 a.m., the movers I hired showed up. I had paid them in cash, told them I needed discretion. They packed up my things in under 3 hours. Clothes, electronics, a few pieces of furniture I had brought into the marriage. Everything fit into my SUV and a small moving truck I had rented. I took one last walk through the apartment. It felt strange, like looking at a place I used to live a long time ago. I did not feel sad. I felt tired and ready. I left the divorce papers on the kitchen counter, right where Sarah would see them when she came home. Next to them, I left a note. I kept it simple. Sarah, I know about the affair. I am done. My lawyer will contact you. Do not try to find me. Karl. Then I got in my SUV and started driving. 1,200 miles from Denver to Seattle. I drove straight through, stopping only for gas and coffee. The first few hours I kept replaying everything in my head. Meeting Sarah, falling in love, the wedding, the good years, the lies. But somewhere around Wyoming, as the landscape opened up into endless sky, I started to feel something shift. Grief, yes. Anger, absolutely. But also relief. And a strange, terrifying kind of freedom. My phone started blowing up around 3 in the afternoon. I was somewhere in Montana when I glanced at it during a gas stop. 17 missed calls from Sarah, a dozen texts. I did not read them. I turned the phone off and kept driving. I reached Seattle late Saturday evening. I had rented a temporary apartment online, a small furnished place in Capitol Hill. I unloaded my car, set up my laptop, and collapsed on the couch. Sunday morning, I went to a phone store and got a new number. Then I sat down and methodically blocked Sarah on every platform I could think of: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I blocked her email addresses. I sent a message to Marcus asking him to tell our mutual friends that I needed space, and they should not share any information about me with Sarah. Most of them understood. The divorce papers were served to Sarah through my lawyer the following week. Patricia called to tell me Sarah had received them. She also mentioned that Sarah had tried calling the office multiple times, asking for my contact information. Patricia, bless her, told her that was confidential. The first year in Seattle was hard. I threw myself into my new job working long hours because it was easier than sitting alone in my apartment thinking about everything. I explored the city on weekends. Pike Place Market became a regular stop. I would buy fresh flowers for my apartment, grab coffee, watch the fish throwers perform for tourists. I walked along the waterfront, got soaked in the rain more times than I could count, discovered hole-in-the-wall restaurants that served the best pho and Thai food I had ever tasted. I joined a running club to stay active and meet people. That is where I started making friends. Real friends who did not know anything about my past unless I chose to share it. I found a trivia night at a pub near my apartment and became a regular. I started seeing a therapist, a woman named Dr. Lin, who helped me process the betrayal and the grief without letting it turn me bitter. And through all of it, Sarah kept trying to reach me. Letters started showing up at my parents' house. They would call and ask what to do with them. I told them to return them to sender, but curiosity got the better of me the first few times, and I read them. Sarah's words were desperate, apologetic. She said the affair was over, that it had meant nothing, that she had made the worst mistake of her life. She begged me to call her, to let her explain, to give her a chance to make it right. She said she loved me, that she always had that. She understood if I hated her, but could I please just talk to her? I read 3 of those letters, then I stopped opening them. They all said the same thing, and none of it changed what had happened. The divorce was finalized 6 months after I left. Sarah did not contest anything. She signed every paper, agreed to every term. I think she thought cooperation would somehow earn her a second chance. It did not. By the end of that first year, the anger had mostly faded. The sadness took longer, but it faded too. What replaced it was something I did not expect: indifference. I realized I did not actually miss Sarah. I missed the idea of having a partner, someone to share life with. But her specifically, no. I started dating casually around the 10-month mark. Nothing serious, coffee dates, dinners, a couple of short-term relationships that fizzled out naturally. It felt good to remember that connection was still possible, that I was not broken. Year 2 brought more stability. I got promoted at work and started leading a development team. I moved into a better apartment with a view of the mountains. I took up photography and spent weekends hiking in the Cascades, capturing landscapes that took my breath away. I built a life I was proud of, but Sarah was not done trying. She found my work email somehow and started sending messages there. I set up a filter that sent anything from her straight to spam. She sent me connection requests on LinkedIn. I blocked her. Somehow she got my new phone number. I do not know if it was through a mutual friend or if she hired someone to find it, but one day I got a text. "Karl, please. I just want to talk. I need closure." I blocked that number too. Through the grapevine, I heard she had moved to San Francisco. I figured the distance would help her move on. I was wrong. Year 3 started off quiet. I met someone named Amanda through my hiking group. She was a teacher, funny and kind, with this infectious laugh that made everyone around her smile. We started dating, and it felt different from anything I had experienced before. Healthy, honest, easy in the best way. We talked about everything. I told her about Sarah, about the betrayal and the ghosting. She listened without judgment, then said, "You did what you needed to do to protect yourself. That takes strength." I thought maybe this was finally it. Maybe Sarah had moved on too. Maybe we were both living new lives. Then the letters started arriving at my apartment. My current apartment, which meant she had found my address. The tone had changed. These letters were not just apologetic anymore. They were intense. She wrote about being in therapy, about all the work she had done on herself, about how she finally understood what she had lost. She said she thought about me every day. She wondered if I ever thought about her. She asked if there was any part of me that missed what we had, that remembered the good times. One letter said she was planning to come to Seattle next month, that she had done some research and knew I liked a certain coffee shop downtown, that I went to the same pub for trivia on Wednesday nights. She said maybe she would run into me, and we could finally have that conversation. That crossed a line. I called Patricia, my lawyer. I asked about restraining orders. She said I could file one if I felt threatened, but she also suggested I try one final clear communication first. Make it absolutely explicit that contact was unwanted. Create a paper trail in case I needed it later. So I did something I had not done in 3 years. I responded. I wrote one email. I kept it short, clear, and firm. No anger, no bitterness, just truth. Sarah, I have built a new life. I am happy. What we had is gone, and I have no interest in revisiting it. Your attempts to reach me are not romantic. They are intrusive. I wish you well, but you need to move on. Do not contact me again. This is my final communication. I sent it. Then I blocked that email address too. I did not know if she received it or read it, but the attempt stopped. No more letters. No more emails or texts or social media requests. Nothing. For the first time in 3 years, I felt real closure. It has been 4 years now since I left Denver. 4 years since I walked out of that apartment and drove 1,200 miles to start over. Amanda and I are still together. We have talked about moving in together, maybe getting a dog. My career is thriving. I lead a team of 15 people, mentor junior developers, and actually look forward to going to work most days. I have close friends here, people who know me as I am now, not as the guy whose wife cheated on him. I rarely think about Sarah anymore. When I do, it is not with anger or sadness. It is more like thinking about a character in a book I read a long time ago. Someone I used to know. Someone who hurt me, but someone who does not have power over me anymore. The healing was not linear. There were good days and bad days. Days when I felt strong, and days when I felt completely lost. Therapy helped. Dr. Lin taught me how to process betrayal without letting it turn me into someone bitter and closed off. My running club and photography gave me outlets, ways to channel energy into something positive. I learned that walking away was not weakness. It was self-preservation. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is refuse to engage. I did not owe Sarah explanations or closure. I did not owe her a dramatic confrontation or a chance to ease her guilt. I owed myself peace. People have asked me if I regret ghosting her, if I wish I had handled it differently. Honestly, no. For me, disappearing was the cleanest cut. It was a choice that protected me from getting sucked into cycles of apologies and promises and inevitable disappointment. It let me grieve and heal without her presence complicating everything. I cannot control what Sarah does or how she feels. I cannot make her move on or find peace. That is her journey. Mine was about rebuilding, about learning to trust again, to open myself up, to love again, to believe that not everyone will betray me the way she did. And I have. Amanda is proof of that. So are the friendships I have built, the life I have created here in Seattle, the version of myself I have become. Someone who knows his worth. Someone who would not settle for breadcrumbs of loyalty or half-hearted commitment. Sometimes I wonder if Sarah truly moved on, if she found someone else, if she dealt with whatever was broken inside her that made her seek validation outside our marriage. But I do not wonder enough to check. I do not look her up on social media or ask mutual friends about her. I genuinely do not care, and that more than anything tells me I made the right choice. The best revenge really is living well, not for her, for me. Because I deserve a life built on honesty and respect and genuine connection. We all do. So if you are out there and you are dealing with betrayal, if someone you loved has broken your trust and you are trying to figure out what to do, I will tell you this. You do not owe anyone your pain. You do not have to stick around for their apologies or their explanations if it costs you your peace. The wedding photos in frames, gifts from her family, kitchen stuff we had bought together. I did not want any of it. I opened a new bank account at a different bank and transferred all my money over. I canceled the one joint credit card we had, though I barely used it. I made a list of what I was entitled to in the divorce and what I was willing to walk away from. Honestly, I did not care about the furniture or the dishes. I wanted nothing that would remind me of this chapter of my life. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who might need to hear it. Your support means everything and helps me keep sharing these stories. Thank you for watching, for listening, for being part of this community. I hope wherever you are in your journey, you find the courage to choose peace over chaos and yourself over anyone who does not value you. Take care of yourself. You are worth it.